right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of YouTube. This is Pastor Dowell. I thought I'd come in here this morning and I thought I'd talk to you for a few moments on the subject of understanding. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to talk about just progressions in life. And I hope that you can endure this video because it is my hope that you will give an ear to hear and not be closed-minded and not function after the way that we've all been trained. Because we truly need to start hearing and then applying the things that are right. But in order to do that, we have to exercise self-autonomy. Now, self-autonomy is simply just being able to govern oneself. We also have to have the ability to be able to use independent thinking, which in this society is not a high commodity. It's because, you know, from the time we come out of our mother's womb, we've been trained in what to believe. Now, life in itself is a remarkable thing. While there are many joyful experiences, there's a lot of sorrow involved too. And so when we came out of our mother's womb, and as a little child growing up, we all have been trained by our prospective environment. Most of our ideals and our value system has been greatly shaped by the environment that we've all been raised in. And, you know, a lot of changes have taken place along the way. And in these changes that have taken place along the way, you know, while we're having our minds shaped by our family, we're having our minds shaped by the educational system, we're having our minds shaped by the school system, we have our minds shaped by whatever religious institutions that we attend. And let me hit on this for a moment. All of us, every single one of us, especially if you grew up here in America, there's one prevalent religion. Now, listen to me very closely. While you may disagree, yet to be informed in your disagreement, you need to actually understand the perspective that I'm coming from. Because to most of us, truth is what we already believe to be the truth. That does not necessarily mean that it is the truth. It's just that it is what we have chosen to believe because of our formal or previous or past training. And then when somebody comes along speaking something different other than the way we have been trained to believe, the first thing we do is we automatically reject it because we assume that we either have the truth, we know the truth, or we're comfortable with the truth, or we know all the truth. Also, with a man like me who is a very passionate speaker, a lot of times in this society, because when we watch the news reporters, when we watch our school teachers, we watch different mentors in our life, we don't ever see them displaying passion about anything that they do. As a matter of fact, the only passion that we ever have seen operating here in our lives is mostly what we call from people acting hostile, or what we would call being angry. But don't ever mistake my passion for being angry, mad, or upset, because it is the direct opposite. There's an intent and a motive to the reasons why that I believe and I do certain things. But remember, until you start to think independently from the way that you have been trained to believe, it's kind of hard for you to understand that you're not the sum of all truth. I am not the sum of all truth. And then, you know, there's always a progression in life. And when we limit ourselves, we stunt our growth. And I want to talk about this just for a moment. You see, in America here, the prevalent religion is Christianity. And no matter what flavor of Christianity that you have chosen to believe, it is still Christianity. Now, I'm going to say a lot of things that many of you are just not familiar with, simply because either you have have had barriers built up in your mind through many different types of fears. Because you understand, when you start talking about religion and faith, the first thing people do is they start shutting down, because people say, oh, okay, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear. And the reason why we don't want to hear it because they're very fearful of change. And many people don't understand the communication of what's really, truly going on. But if you can have the ability to hear me, just hear me out here for a moment. We've all been raised here in the United States of America to believe in the religion of Christianity. And believing in this religion of Christianity comes in many different flavors. But yet, Christianity derives, or at least they say that they get their faith and belief from the Holy Bible. Now, the Holy Bible, from its very inception and from the very beginning, is a Hebraic script. It's a Hebrew script, and all the prophets and the apostles were Hebrew. And the history of the Hebrews spans some 4,000 years, written about in this cover right here. But then we only have like maybe 99 and a half years of the Greek influence. But yet, because we're in this latter time, the Greek influence or the Greek persuasion and culture has its influence upon our minds as well as our culture. And because many of us are not students of this word and we don't understand truly what's really going on, we just automatically adopt and we accept as normal what we see going on around us. And we never question or challenge anything. And in that, we've stunted ourselves. And I've learned over the years that while I may have started off in the religion of Christianity, I pretty much have come to the conclusion, figured out, but that's definitely not the place that anybody wants to end. And that's just the truth. But that didn't come because I just believed what everything that everybody told me. And I lived this life totally oblivious to my surroundings and everything that's going on. As a matter of fact, I've been very instrumental in my little small space of time here on this earth. And it didn't take place until I was in my 20s that I started really questioning everything. And in my questioning, there was many digressions. I went through many different phases and many different changes and stuff. But then I pretty much figured out what's going on. But it took a lot of study. It took a lot of it because when we have been trained to believe a certain way, it's hard for us to break free of that yoke. It's hard for us to break free of the way our minds have been manipulated, because when you get out onto uncharted territory, it says to us instability. It preaches to us instability. And then all types of fears arise in our heart. And so, for instance, let's say that you embrace the faith of Abraham according to the way that this Bible teaches us and not according to the way that your religion has trained you. Immediately, fear comes up. And, because change is a very fearful thing to do. And, of course, then what happens? Well, you start to fear loss of life. You fear the loss of family. You start to fear loss of friends, fear of loss of job, occupation, no matter what. But, all types of fears will arise in your heart because you don't know how people are going to respond to the changes that you're making. But yet Christ taught us clearly, and he says it's going to cost you everything in order to follow him. Of course, many people are not willing to pay that price. As a matter of fact, many people are just content to stay the way that they are. They're content to stay the way that they are because it's less painful to make the changes according to what this book requires of us, because we were all born in sin and shapen in iniquity, which most of us don't want to admit. Many of us have had many horrific experiences in religion. And when we've had those experiences in religion, rather than doing our own independent study and doing our own independent research and using our own independent thinking, what we did was just say, okay, these people are a bunch of bozos, they're a bunch of hypocrites, they're mind numb, there ain't no way I'm listening to them. After all, I hear what they say, I watch what they do, they go to church, but then you look at the way their lifestyle is, you look at the way they act, there ain't no way I'm going to follow them. And what we've done is we actually put barriers against ourselves from progressing and growing because we watched others who seemed to be, or they professed to be of somewhat, and they fell short, completely short. But yet and still, I want you to listen to me very closely. Those of us who were so upset and those of us who were so offended by the people who say that they were one thing, but we found them to be liars, you yourself did not go out and make the necessary changes. You didn't do the research. You're not living the way that you should be living, or at least the way that there's something in your heart that tells you that way you should. And so the truth is, you're no better off than the people who are a bunch of hypocrites. I often said this, and I say it all the time. I was speaking with somebody one day, and I said, they said they was giving me all the reasons why come they don't go to church. And of course, I don't blame them. I told them that was a real good thing for you to not do. Don't ever go to any churches out there that you know they use some of the principles of his Bibles, but yet they don't believe it. They don't keep the commandments. And I said, do you know the real reason why you don't go to church? And I said, please don't get upset at me and please don't get offended at me, but I'm going to be brutally honest with you. They said, sure, tell me the real reason why come out and go to church. I said, the reason why you don't go to church is because if you do go to church, the church would have one more hypocrite to his membership. Of course, they got upset and they got mad even after they told me they wasn't going to get mad. And then I had to calm them down for a minute. I said, just think about what I said. See, while we are pointing our finger and judging all of those who are attending these churches, and yet there's no reflection in their life to show any manner or the way that they should be, we ourselves are not doing anything about our own selves. We're not following the principles, the teachings, and the guidelines of what this book says. So while we are able to point out easily the hypocrisy in others, it's amazing how that we're very blinded when it comes to seeing the hypocrisy in our own selves. So I've learned over the years that Christianity is not the way. And I use the King James Version of the Bible. As a matter of fact, there are many things in this Bible that you are just not ready for. I mean, flat out, really, you're just not ready for. Because if you knew the truth, the way that this Bible presented, I would venture to say that many of you would deny the faith. And would never follow it again, because the way you have been trained previously has shaped your mind and put certain images into it. And because your mind and your value system has been shaped by your environment and by your family and by your school system, when you start reading this book and seeing it for what it really truly says yourself, a great offense is going to come. But what matters is what you're going to do. See, I personally have made a decision. I chose to follow the author of this book right here. And they just happen to be the creator of the universe. And I didn't come to this conclusion because I continue to keep exercising the same tracks in my life by going and listening to somebody else and then believing what they said, and then only after a while find out that, okay, it's not the truth. It's remarkable. But what I am in is I am in the faith of Abraham. Abraham was a Hebrew. This Bible only talks about the faith of Israelites. Now you have to listen to me real close. The faith that I believe did not originate in Rome. Matter of fact, it come from the father of faith, which is Abraham, who was also a friend of the Most High. And Abraham, out of his loins, from his seed, come all the prophets and all the apostles and all the 12 tribes of Israel. And so when you read that book, when you read the Bible, you read the Bible from the perspective of Israel, and not the Israel that you have been trained to believe. Because see, this world knows that if you tell a people a certain thing, if you put a certain perspective, or if you paint a picture a certain way, they know you're not going to do the research. They know you're not going to study it out and search it out to find out what's really, truly the truth. And so when I tell you that them people over in that land that they call Israel is not Israel, many of you are going to get offended. And I understand your offense, because that's what religion does. When I start tearing down your sacred cows, and I tell you, just go search it out. See if I'm lying. If I'm lying, then, discard me. But don't just rationally discard what I'm saying because you don't believe it, because it doesn't line up with your religion. I mean, after all, there's only one faith. The Bible clearly tells us one Lord, one faith, and one baptism. And Christianity, no aspect of it is that faith. And I didn't come to that conclusion because I just sat around and watched videotapes and lived my own life and decided that I was not going to do any independent research. No, this had come after many years of study and prayer and research and looking for wisdom and guidance. And I finally, years and years ago, I come to the conclusion, and I've been on that course ever since. But Christianity originated in Rome. This book did not originate in Rome. Neither the perspective of this book originated in Rome. You have to go back to the original ancient Hebrew Israelites. The truth is, there's not one thing about Christianity is the truth. Now, what they do is they use this Bible and they mix the truth with the lies of Christianity, or the ideals and the different types of false forms of worship that Christianity has adopted, and they corrupt your minds. And so they can teach you Christmas and Easter, and then they can look at an account of what the Hebrews did in here, and they'll twist and finagle and warp it and distort it, and they'll tell you that everybody in this Bible was Christian. They'll even tell you that the apostles were Christian, which they're lying to you again. But you're not going to know this unless you open up this book and read it for yourself. I'm sorry to inform you that everything that you've ever believed in life is a lie. I mean, it is a flat out fact, and it's a very painful fact because I've been through that pain. That's why I'm so passionate today to get the truth out to you, if you're willing to hear. Because I do know that faith comes by hearing, and hearing comes by the word of Yah. And you have to hear. And the only way you're going to hear is by a preacher. And that preacher must be an Israelite. Because if he is not an Israelite, he's going to teach you whatever persuasion or whatever perspective that is not written in this book. And that is a guarantee. That's why Christianity teaches you their persuasion and their way. And then they write all these other books to circumvent the truth of this book. And they move all kinds of things out of your mind. And then let's go to the economic front. I do many videos on here on sound money, lawful money, what money really truthfully is. You know why? Because my perspective and my persuasion comes from this. So change is very painful. It really truly is. Yet, this Bible teaches us that we ought to prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. Now, you need to ask yourself, have you proven everything that you ever believed in life? Chances are you have not done it at all. I will tell you this, though. If you're willing to do the research, if you're willing to seek for wisdom, if you're willing to at least take the first step, you'll find out one thing, that I'm not your enemy. And I'm not the one that's lying to you. That's why I can sit here with a clear conscience and tell you, and I'll give you an example. You'll get out there in Christianity, most Christian pastors will admit that the Sabbath is the seventh day of the week, or what they call Saturday. And they will even tell you to honor it. But watch this. But they themselves will not do it themselves. You know why? Because then they'll turn around and then they'll preach on Sunday, which you can preach every day of the week. But what I'm saying is that they'll promote that day over the Sabbath. Why? Because that is this culture. And they don't want to offend because of this culture. Because to make a change, when you make a change, you're saying, okay, you're wrong and I'm right. That is the subliminal messages that's being translated from one mind to the other. And since we all have been trained and we have had our conscience manipulated, we're very reluctant to change. And the reason why we're very reluctant to change, because who knows the fears that may come into your heart. Most people can't stand bearing the reproach of Christ because they can't stand what their neighbors are going to think. They can't stand what the town is going to think about them. They can't stand what people are going to say about them. And so therefore, the fear of man is greater in their hearts than the fear of the King who created them all. So that's why I get on here openly and I ask people over and over again, if I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. But you're going to have to do it with this, and you really, truly better get ready to contend. Now, I'm not going to discard, because I learned that is a very elementary attitude, and I learned that a long, long time ago. A long, long time ago, when somebody used to say something, I said, because you know the reason why I did that? You know the reason why I reacted that way? Because I personally didn't believe it. A lot of times I found out when somebody was really, truly trying to minister to me, trying to tell me the truth. I found out a little bit later on, man, those people told me the truth. But I rejected it because it wasn't what was already in my mind and in my heart, what I personally believed. But I found out what I personally believed had nothing to do with what this says. And so I had to make changes. And in that changes, I lost many so-called friends, so-called family, and jobs. I did. I have no doubt about it. But I'm willing to count it all dung that I may gain the kingdom. And most people are not willing to pay that price because, they can't stand being talked about because they can't bear the reproach. So anyway, your pastor will say, oh yeah, I believe that Saturday is the Sabbath. But then they'll turn around and they'll attend church on Sunday, and it will not require the people to keep the commandments. I mean, after all, if you don't believe me, open up your Bibles and go to Exodus chapter 20 and read verses 8 through 11 and see what it says. And then go to your calendar and then look and see what day is the seventh day. And then go and ask your preacher why come we're not doing it. Because that's what the Most High gave to the Hebrews. And that's why I keep telling you about it is the faith of Abraham and not Christianity, because Rome approved of the change. Roman Catholic Church did. They approved of the change. They said that the church has the right to change the commandments of God. The Roman Catholic Church did. That's why I keep calling all you Christians, you're nothing but glorified Catholics. That's all there is to it. And you can get mad and upset all you want. I understand that. But it's still the truth. So any man that will not honor the Sabbath, the way you honor the Sabbath is you rest on the seventh day. You do what Christ did on the seventh day. I mean, he went into the synagogue. That's what we would call churches. On the Sabbath, they stood up for the read. On the first day, he was out going about his business. Paul was too. He was out going about his business, doing the things that normally in everyday life. But what has this country done? Well, they have changed your minds. They have told you what they have accepted as truth, and they have taught it. And I don't care what curriculum it is. The problem is that many people won't do any research. That's why I teach you. If you're going to advance and you're going to grow and you really truly want to know the truth, you've got to get away from all these voices and all these people who say like this. Oh, I believe that Saturday is the Sabbath, but we do Sunday. You see, that has nothing whatsoever to do. And I use that one because, that's one of the so-called arguments. Of course, y'all see me many times. Hey, I travel the United States of America, all over this country, up and down. And I can never get one pastor to ever challenge me, all these Sunday keepers, on this. And I even offer to pay for the meeting rooms. I would even come to their assemblies. Or they could come here. It makes no difference to me. You see, but the reason why people don't want you to hear me, because if you do hear me, and then if something does clicking, and you go research this thing, what I'm saying, you're going to have to make a decision. Either you're going to have to face the truth and do like a lot of people do. They hear the truth, they face it, they understand it, they get a big air pocket in their throat, they swallow, and then they dust themselves off, they brush it from their mind as if nothing has ever happened at all. But then there are those who hear the truth, they seriously consider what has been said, they weigh the evidence, they do the research themselves. Because, after all, the facts, they can't deny. I thought it was truth over facts, isn't it? And that's what I do. I live my life. I take the truth over facts any day. As long as the facts line up with the truth, that's fine. But believing facts over truth, I take truth over facts. But then those people, they will take the truth And then they will start implementing changes in their life. And you're going to find out just how deceived the masses of the people really are. Yes, it's true. 99.9% of the people who attend church on Sunday are grossly deceived. I can make a statement and I can make a challenge to any pastor, preacher, teacher, or minister out there in the world, because I've done the research. I've been there before. And now I follow and I keep the commandments. Don't be afraid of change, because in order to grow, you can't stay the way that you are. As a matter of fact, that's one of the purest forms of insanity, is continually to do the things that you've always done and expect change. Well, anyway, I just thought I'd come in here and say something to you this morning. It was just on my heart. Don't know how much good it's going to do, but I do know this. I do know that this particular ministry right here is changing a lot of people's lives. And let me say something while I'm here and while I'm getting ready to close. You see me out front because I'm the one making the videos. I'm the preacher and the teacher here straightway. But I tell you what, I have a people that are behind me, people that support me, that are in the background that you hardly ever see. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. It's because of their support. And it's because of their love for the Most High and their dedication and sacrifice that they made, I'm able to have the opportunity to come before you. And all this takes place because of Him who called each and every last one of us. So I have a wonderful spiritual family who are Israelites, every single one of them, that is backing me up. So whether you believe I'm a pastor or not is irrelevant. They believe it. And they are the seal of my pastorship. I hope you understand. I just told you the truth. Hopefully gave you something to think about. And I hope that you're man enough and you're woman enough to be able to accept the reproach of Christ and to change. Go back in my archives. Do some diligent research. Remember, don't mistake my passion for anger. There's a reason why I'm very passionate. Very passionate. Now, it's not wrong. It's not sinful to be angry because I'm angry. I am angry about something. I'm angry because of the people are being fleeced and lied to by every aspect and from every aspect of their lives that it is possible. And I'm just sick of it. So that's why I get on here and I passionately tell you the truth.